From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, this is Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith. In today's show, I ask USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins if President Trump's ground beef imports will help rebuild the cattle herd. Dustin visits with National FFA CEO Scott Stump. And Mark talks with United States Attorney General Todd Blanche. Now let's welcome in our hosts, Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman.
Dustin, we still have a lot of great audio to get to in today's show, as there's a lot that's happened here in just the past few days. And of course, I'm thinking back to Friday, the big announcement from President Trump on Truth Social that they're going to be importing more beef here into the United States to help out consumers, hopefully, at the grocery store. But as we know, that story is still continuing, where the producers here of cattle in this country are still not happy with that announcement.
No, very much so. And when we talked about that on Friday, we knew that was probably going to be a sore subject. And, as we said, it's a double-edged sword. And again, standing up for, the farmers and ag producers, it is a really tough situation. It's going to cause a lot of problems in the market and could devalue the market. But on the same time, you look at it from the consumer side, and beef prices, especially in hamburger, are expensive. And farmers know that they're paying a lot of the same prices as well. And so you have to understand where people are concerned about the price they're paying at the grocery store. But again, as we talked with the folks at cattle people, producers that we've talked to throughout the fair and talked to the NCBA president, you have to remember that yes, we've seen some of the comments on our Facebook section about it, that these people that are not in the industry saying that farmers and ranchers are making millions hand over fist. Maybe so when you get the sale, but when you turn around and have to replenish the stock and replenish the inputs, you're giving those big checks right back to another company. It's just filtering through the farmer's hands. And so that becomes another thing to think about as well. But again, as we said on Friday, and as I said again here today, you can understand the consumer side of it. Something's got to give because this economy is in a tough spot. However, cattle producers haven't had this good a market in a long time. And so there's been some back and forth on that.
And Dustin, the thing too, from just looking at the perspective of the consumer, is that ground beef was always the one that you could fall back on. Yes, those premium cuts, those steak cuts, they were always going to be, expensive relative to ground beef. So you knew going to the grocery store, hey, maybe, I'm tightening the purse strings a little bit. I'm not going to buy steaks here for dinner this week, but I am going to buy ground beef because it's a more affordable option. Well, even right now, as we've seen with food costs, ground beef has skyrocketed, and it is no longer that affordable choice when you're looking for a protein source on the beef side. So you can see why they would want to alleviate that and help to bring that cost down for the everyday average person.
Yeah. And again, like I said, we're not trying to deflect anything off of the fact that farmers are going to feel this pinch. And Riley did ask that question. You can see that clip on our Facebook page as well. He asked the question straight out: what is this going to do to help our farmers? Because it's being touted as a way to rebuild the herd. Well, in 3 months, nothing much is going to change. It takes a long time to get a heifer from birth to ready to produce its own calf. So, I mean, you're not going to see anything really change that much in 3 months. But the fact of the matter is, we are seeing the markets react a lot faster. And so that's the question that a lot of people are wanting the answer to. A lot of cattle producers are upset about, and rightfully so. But again, to your point, ground beef is expensive. I paid $9 a pound just yesterday for 2 pounds of beef, and so people are hurting. We're going to go to the grain markets right now. Mark talking with Greg McBride of Allendale about what's going on in corn and soybeans.
Joined today by Greg McBride of Allendale for the opening market discussion. Greg, what's happening with the trade in the grains?
Oh, we've got a nice bounce to start the week here. You had a gap off the close from Friday's action on corn. We are currently up 6 on the corn market, well off the highs though. We are about 10 cents off the highs. Beans are down about 9 cents as we kind of play two different games here. You've got crude oil getting beaten up, so that puts a little bit of negativity into the bean oil. The bean numbers coming out of the Pro Farmer Tour did come in above USDA's last mark at the WASDE report, came in at 53.3 183, which is also above trend, whereas the corn side of things came in well below trend, about 10 bushels below trend and about 7 bushels below the most recent USDA report. So we do have some mixed emotions here. We've got excitement in the wheat market, which has come off its highs a little bit here as we continue to play this game about how much movement is happening in the Black Sea with regard to the Russia and Ukraine war. And from what we hear, there's varying reports about whether or not there's all movement has stopped or it's limited movement. But all of that would be friendly to the feed grains, specifically wheat, but corn gets a part of that as well.
So, Greg, is the big takeaway you think from the Pro Farmer Crop Tour, at least on the corn side, is one of the big takeaways anyway that maybe those areas that got too much rain are actually causing some of the most problems?
Some of the areas that they saw were excessive rains. Some of them were just from the heat and dryness that we saw during the month of July. It's also it's a tough situation because it doesn't the route that they take doesn't necessarily give you a full indication of how the entire state looks. So there's limited areas that they're looking at in each zone that they go to. But historically, they do tend to underestimate the crop. If you look at where they were at last year versus the final, the number came in at 188 point something in August. They came in at 182. The final number came in at 186. In previous years, they've seen similar movement where to the point of being 4.5 to 5 bushels lower than what the final number from the USDA is. It is a good indication of kind of maybe it's not as good as expected, but maybe it's a little bit biased as far as some of the areas that they see not being the best production areas.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
Well, we are back on Iowa Ag Matters, and of course, we had many members of President Trump's cabinet in the Iowa State Fairgrounds at our broadcast shed, and the Attorney General was one of them that stopped by to talk about situations in the fertilizer industry. Mark Magnuson has more.
I'm joined today here at the Iowa State Fair by Attorney General of the United States, Todd Blanche, and Associate Attorney General of the United States, Stanley Woodward. Guys, thanks so much for taking the time to join us here at the Iowa State Fair. We really appreciate you stopping by. And Todd, I wanted to start off and talk with you about something that has been on the top of minds for all Iowa farmers, and especially recently as we have seen fertilizer prices climb, and that is the concerns around fertilizer pricing and being able to acquire that fertilizer at a fair price. What is the Department of Justice doing in relation to that consolidation process and trying to make things as fair as possible for the consumer farmer?
It's a great question, and you're right. This is a big, challenging time for ranchers and for farmers, in no small part because of the challenges we're having around the fertilizer industry. From the Department of Justice standpoint, we're trying to make sure that there's fair competition. And so, as everybody knows, it's a consolidated industry. It's not just a U.S.-based problem because you have a lot of the fertilizers manufactured in other countries, Canada, overseas, and so what we're doing with DOJ is making sure that we're doing the right thing in making sure competition is fair. And if we have to investigate, that's what we're doing. But I think more broadly beyond Department of Justice, this isn't just a DOJ issue. It's an issue that every Iowan feels, but it's also an issue that the whole federal government's helping the state with. So when you talk about easing export-import issues with importing fertilizer, which we've done, and that's not DOJ, but that's some of our partners at Commerce and State and the White House, and just trying to understand, look, part of it is fuel prices. We got to bring diesel prices down, and that's something President Trump talks about that we're working on right now. And so there's a lot of factors that go into the challenges Iowans feel. But my message that I hope everybody realizes is that this is something that President Trump talks about in the Oval Office constantly. Is something that Secretary Rollins talks about, Secretary Burgum, myself, Stanley. This is not something that we're just hoping gets better. We're working hard, doing everything we can to fix it. There's a negotiation going on with Canada right now that hopefully will ease that up too. And so we're in the middle of it right now, and I hope that we get to be at the end of it soon.
And Stanley, more to that topic, I guess I would ask you then, how do you grade, I guess, a fairness level when it comes to trying to make sure that this fertilizer industry is as fairly priced as possible and trying to make things fair for the consumer?
Well, look, that's a great question. I mean, President Trump's administration has been one of the most transparent in human history. And so one of the frustrations I think that farmers and ranchers have is that they don't know why pricing is the way it is. And so one of the things we're working on is helping folks, the public, et cetera, understand why prices are the way they are. If folks understand why a price is the way it is and what goes into manufacturing the product that they're buying, whether it's fuel or fertilizer or corn or beef, that goes a long way to selling that product. There's a lot that goes into the price of beef, for example. Farmers don't just create cattle overnight. This takes time, and we're working with all levels of industry to make sure that folks understand where does the price come from.
And as it relates to fertilizer specifically, do you think there is some improvement on the horizon for the farmer customer?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, competition is the gold standard here. And when you have competition, prices come down. And so we're working collaboratively, not just with farmers and ranchers, but also with the fertilizer companies themselves. We look forward to reaching a just and equitable outcome with all of these stakeholders in the industry.
Joslyn Plant Cattle Producers, we have a delivery solution for you. Call Legacy Beef Co-op, where members market cattle through a processor-negotiated real-time formula grid. This grid includes a base price premium for members and offers market protection guardrails. Join now for a one-time co-op membership fee of $62.50 per unit. For more information, call Legacy Beef Co-op at 531-375-6559 or email James Timmerman at james@legacybeefcoop.com.
It's time to run down those basis prices for you here on Iowa Ag Matters on this Monday. Back in the studios, I'm Dustin Huffman. Taking a look at cash bids around the state, only two elevators making any kind of switches to their bids. Let's run them down. IAM Burlington, 25 cents under on corn, $4.71. Soybeans, 18 cents under, $12.17. Cargill and Eddyville, 12 cents under on corn. Their cash bid is at $4.84. New Co-op Algona, 28 cents under on corn, $4.68. Soybeans, 15 cents under, cash bid $12.20. Ag State Sheldon, 17 cents under on corn, $4.79. Soybeans, 25 cents under at $12.10. Ag State Elta, 26 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.70. Soybeans, 20 cents under, $12.15. Cargill Cedar Rapids, 9 cents under on corn, their cash bid $4.87. Soybeans, 15 cents over, cash price $12.50. Five-Star Co-op Nashua, 32 cents under on corn, $4.64. Soybeans, 20 cents under, $12.15. Lincoln Way Energy Nevada, 15 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.81. ADM Des Moines, 20 cents over on soybeans, the cash price $12.55. New Co-op Red Oak, 21 cents under on corn, $4.75. Soybeans even at $12.35. Mid-Iowa Cooperative Green Mountain, 42 cents under on corn, $4.54. Soybeans, 50 cents under, $11.85. New Co-op Sheraton, 25 cents under on corn, $4.71. Soybeans, 15 cents under, cash price $12.20. Walk-On Feed Ranch, 48 cents under on corn, $4.48. Soybeans, 64 cents under, they're at $11.71. At New Co-op Glidden, they're 28 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.68. Soybeans even at $12.35. Innovative Ag Services Farley, 44 cents under on corn, $4.52. Soybeans, 69 cents under with a cash bid of $11.66. And finally today at Cargill and Muscatine, they're 25 cents under on corn, $4.71. Soybeans, 30 cents under, $12.05. Cash corn and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevator when making sales to obtain the most recent price. That's been a check of your cash corn and soybean bids here on Iowa Ag Matters. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this message.
Your local radio station brings you the pulse of your community. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network adds specialized ag content to help farmers make informed decisions. From county fairs to national ag news, we're here to tell the story of agriculture to everyone who needs to hear it. Together, we deliver a blend of local community and ag industry-focused information that rural Iowa relies on every day. This message from your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. On Friday, United States Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins stopped by the Iowa State Fair. Riley Smith was there and asked a question about how the import of beef from foreign countries is going to help U.S. cattle producers.
It is a really challenging time in the farm economy. It is a challenging time for American agriculture. We have done hundreds of these roundtables with farmers and ranchers around the country, and they always point back to the dream isn't just to feed and fuel America, it is to pass the farm or the ranch along. But without certainty and without profitability, Secretary Nag mentioned that today, we may not have the American dream as we know it, because if we can't feed and fuel and clothe ourselves, we lose our country. So first and foremost, I want to say a couple things about the announcement this morning. Number one, I think you'll be hard-pressed to find a president that has been more supportive of agriculture and farmers and ranchers than President Trump. If you think about when we walked in the door 18 months ago, there had not been one new trade deal in 4 years. We had gone from an agricultural trade surplus of $8 billion to a deficit in ag of $50 billion. The average input on the American farm had gone up 40%, whether that is fuel, fertilizer, seed, labor, interest rates, equipment. It was just unsustainable. And you could go on down the line. The regulatory regime that was implemented, we had a USDA that I walked into that was more focused on DEI than supporting farmers. And President Trump over the last 18 months with his leadership, including Zach, the One Big Beautiful Bill, where the previous administration couldn't get a farm bill passed, and we got reference prices, pretty much the bulk of what would have been in a farm bill. We still need to do one, but we got a lot of it done. So I don't know that there has been a president who has been more supportive of agriculture and farming and ranching than President Trump has. That's the first thing I think is important to say. The second part I want to say about this is this. The cost of food in the last administration increased up to 25% over 4 years. So the average American family, beginning in 2021, began to see their food and grocery bill increase. And over 4 years, it was 25%. In the last 18 months under President Trump, we've been at about 3%, which is historically aligned. But what you're looking at is an unprecedented historical moment where that 25% under the last administration, we're still trying to dig out from under. And the importance of families being able to put really good food on the table is at a good value, is a top concern for President Trump, and it has been for a really long time. And so the opportunity in a very short period of time, I think the announcement this morning said just the next 90 days, we're going to move in about 300,000 metric tons of just ground beef from other countries so that we can get a 25% decrease for families, usually lower income families rely on ground beef. Then he wanted to make that move for the American consumer. That's the second thing. The third thing is this. There is no question that, and some of them standing behind me, some cattle guys, our ranchers, that this is I don't want to say unexpected because I think the president has been talking about it for a long time, but it did come at a time where I think a lot of people weren't prepared for it. But what I want to add is a little bit of context. We closed the ports because of the New World screwworm 14 months ago, and that was my decision with the president's backing. I had a lot of people pushing against that month after month after month. You know, you're keeping a lot of cattle out of America. It's driving the cost up for beef. And my response to that was, well, yes, but if we don't protect our herd, things are going to get a lot worse and we're going to lose a lot more ranchers. And so over that 14 months, the number is just over 1 million head did not cross into America. That 1 million plus heads stayed south of the border. Not one crossed through one port as we were preparing. And I think we've managed, there's only 3 active cases of New World screwworm after 2.5 months in America. So it's a great success story. We're not done yet, but we're close. And so I stand by those 14 months. But what that 300,000 metric tons represents that the president announced this morning is about 500,000 head of cattle. So we're still less 500,000 head of cattle today, plus than we would have been if we'd kept the ports open. And this is all lean, right? So it's not the really good cuts that America is so good for.
A lot of producers are maybe still a little confused as to how bringing in these 300,000 metric tons will exactly allow them to rebuild the cattle herd. So I guess for that point of it, how will this not only allow them to rebuild the cattle herd, but maybe incentivize them to do so as well?
Well, and I think in my long dissertation, I mentioned this, but I'll make it very tight this time. We closed the ports 14 months ago. About 1 million one head have been kept out of America because of New World screwworm. We were reopening a port on Monday in Arizona. So you'll begin to see a slow trickle. It'll build up over the coming months. But at the end of the day, what the president announced this morning represents just about half of what would have already been here on the lean side, which is the ground beef, what we grind up. So for the long term, there really should not be any big challenges as we continue to build the herd. And last week, I think maybe the week before, was the first good sign in more than a decade. We had an increase in heifer retention. We had bigger numbers in our feedlots. So we're beginning to see, and we had bigger numbers being kept back actually on our feeder side. So we're beginning to see some real, I think, movement in that direction. And as the USDA and the president, we're changing WOTUS, right? The waters of the USA. We're lifting regulations off of our ranchers and farmers. We're opening up 5 million acres in grazing land. We're doing Product of the USA, which is a voluntary label, but will again be able to value add to our great American beef. And again, 10% increase year over year in the last year or so on the purchasing of fresh food and the purchasing of beef. So it will only go up from here.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
This is the Midday Market Update on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson, joined at midday by Justin McKinney of Comstock. Justin, what's happening with the trade in the grains?
Sharply higher on the corn after following yesterday's overnight. We opened up very strong on that backs of the Pro Farmer Tour. Again, history tells us that they might be a couple 3 bushel, 4 bushel low. However, with a 73 national yield, that still means that we're likely going to face additional USDA cuts to production as the clock ticks forward. When those come, nobody knows, but they have a history of slow playing it. But it does kind of confirm to what other people were talking about, at least in the way of the corn yield for this year. And the soybeans were down 16.5 cents here today. Again, on the backs of the Pro Farmer, it appears that we do not have a soybean story out there other than the potential is still in the field.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
Nothing positive over there, Mark. Today we got the Douglas port opening. Feeder cattle down 70 in the August. September's down 542. October down 557. I have not heard any news stories come out of that yet, how that's going, how many head will cross. I've heard that there's a fair amount of cattle that will cross, but we had that bullish cattle on feed report on Friday. Thought we'd see maybe a little bit of follow through on that today. Overall, headlines just pushing them feeder cattle down. Higher corn, Douglas border opening, unknown, leadership from the White House, what direction we're going to actually head. Those imported tariffs or reduction to the 300,000 metric ton on Friday. Kind of a surprising that it was announced on Friday. With the cattle on feed report, we didn't have any LRP available. Again, who knows where that's going to shake out. Fat cattle trading down $3. right off the bat this morning. Boxes off 84 cents. We had a really good week last week up until Friday on those boxes. Going to need to see some momentum pick up on those boxes as we move forward here if we expect to make much of a comeback here in the cattle.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
You betcha. 320-589-4345 is my direct line, or 712-227-1110.
Justin McKinney, Comstock, thanks so much for the time and have a great rest of the day.
You bet.
Joslyn Plant Cattle Producers, we have a delivery solution for you. Call Legacy Beef Co-op, where members market cattle through a processor-negotiated real-time formula grid. This grid includes a base price premium for members and offers market protection guardrails. Join now for a one-time co-op membership fee of $62.50 per unit. For more information, call Legacy Beef Co-op at 531-375-6559 or email James Timmerman at james@legacybeefcoop.com. September corn up 10 3/4 at $4.94 1/2. September soybeans down 13 1/4 at $12.11 3/4. September soybean meal up $2.20 at $3.19.90. September soybean oil down $2.59 at $66.76. Chicago wheat up 4 cents at $6.85 1/2. Minneapolis wheat down 4 cents at $6.95. Kansas City hard red wheat down a penny at $7.55 1/4. September oats up 4 3/4 at $3.29. On the Merc, October live cattle down $4.08 at $213.85. September feeder cattle down $5.35 at $323.68. October lean hogs up 8 cents at $80.95. October pork cutout unchanged at $107.28. Class 3 milk up 11 cents at $16.66. That was a check of the midday markets on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters, it's time to go into that livestock marketplace. Greg McBride of Allendale rejoining that conversation with Mark Magnuson. Interested to hear what he says about cattle right now.
Let's talk about the other side of the ag marketplace. What's happening with the livestock trade?
Well, the big story that is driving the cattle was on the same thing on Friday is the announcement by President Trump that there's going to be 300,000 metric tons of ground beef that he imports. He wouldn't say on Friday who it was from. We're hearing that it's going to be Argentina, but then also selling that ground beef at like 25% under retail. So that really puts a crimp in things as far as U.S. beef production. It kind of hits back at the producer. Knocking back prices is obviously not something they want. So it's a situation that needs to be monitored. We did come back and finish mostly unchanged going into Friday's commitment of traders report, which was friendly. And so we've started out this today slightly higher on the cattle side of things, but this is a market that gapped lower on Friday, did come back and finish, but it's still at its lowest point that it's been in months. So we continue to watch that. Production is expected to start to take a small uptick as we start to open the port from Mexico to the United States to bring in cattle as well. That starts this week, and then next month we'll get 2 more ports that open up. But this is a situation with regard to cattle and cattle prices that ranchers are not going to be happy about as far as kind of cutting themselves at the knees here with not only bringing in a massive amount of ground beef, but also bringing it in at a lower cost than what they are able to produce. On the hog side of things, it is, again, we saw a nice recovery in the month of July, and now we've sold off again. We should be getting to a point where we see that seasonal low as we go into into the end of August and beginning of September, we should see a nice comeback as it comes to procurement for World Pork Month, which is in October. But it's a time will tell type situation, as this market is kind of faced the same negativity that the cattle market has. I don't know if that's more just seasonal or if it's due to the underlying effects of the cattle market as well.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
Give us a call 800-2-MARKET. That's 800-262-7538.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
This is Iowa Ag Matters, and it is time now for the conversation with Scott Stump of FFA as we talk about the restart of school for FFA students and also looking forward to the National Convention.
Iowa State Fair 2026, Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, here with Scott Stump. He is the CEO of the National FFA. Scott, thanks so much for taking the time to visit with us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here and be at the Iowa State Fair.
All right, so of course, a big event here. FFA is well represented here in the state of Iowa, and of course, you know that with the National Convention coming up, and so many of our representatives come there from go there from our state. And talk about a little bit about what you guys have got going on this year and what kind of things you're taking in here at the fair.
Yeah, so number one, I had the full tour of the fairgrounds and got the lay of the land with state officers and district officers this morning, and they were incredible tour guides. Number one, they did take me through all of the experiences that FFA members are having here, of showing livestock to displaying. Had a good visit with the tractor restoration project with the John Deere 4020, which was incredible. That young man put a shine on that hood that I couldn't do when I was in high school. We also then guided me to the best places to eat. So always introducing me to new fair foods. We did not try the caviar and chicken tenders.
You know, we thought about doing that, but even us, we couldn't get a sponsor for that. So, and I didn't want to give a week's pay, I think, to get it. But yeah, it looks like there's always something interesting here. Last year, you would have missed lobster roll and Dom Perignon.
Well, there you go.
You can't go wrong.
Are always good.
Exactly. But of course, you have to hit the staples here, like the pork chop on a stick, the cookies, the hard-boiled eggs at the Ag Building. Got to see the butter cow and all that. So I'm sure you've gotten that tour.
We did. Got the butter cow. The line was too long for the hard-boiled eggs. But I tell you that you asked about what's going on. We just finished our 24-25 membership year and released the data here recently. And, you know, we are up over, again, 1 million young people nationwide as FFA members that are being served, 1,053,000. And the cool part on that is, though, just like here in Iowa, which also went up, the biggest expansion is due to new chapters forming. And so here in Iowa, 2 new communities are going to get access to FFA and ag education. Nationwide, nearly 200 new community coming into saying yes to FFA and ag education as young people being influenced. So we're excited about that growth.
And, you know, to see that growth still continuing, an organization that's been around and has had its roots so far into rural America, and as rural America seems to keep shrinking, it's nice to see that that strength is still growing. I mean, you're seeing FFA chapters in big cities even.
Absolutely. From Des Moines, which is coming back this year, thank goodness, all the way to Chicago and New York. In fact, 22 of the 24 largest metropolitan areas in the U.S. have agriculture education and FFA in them. And I just think it's that this generation are wanting to reconnect to food, to things that grow, to life, to finding a problem to solve. And so one of the other reasons I'm here at the State Fair is with the Clean Power Institute, which I joined their board in January. And there is a natural intersect between resource management that farmers and ranchers have been doing for millennia. And when you add in sunlight and wind, harvesting them in different ways for a value is an incredible asset to rural communities.
And you know, what kind of messages we give like to these freshmen who are coming in this fall for the first time and maybe think they're in over their head in an organization like this?
Oh, you know what? That's where ag teachers, tremendous FFA advisors, those local instructors do the best job of just coaching them along. Many of them ask that young person to first pick a career path and then narrow in selecting all of the opportunities that they could look at, but picking the ones that are most important to get them where they want to go.
All right. And so you also got the National Convention coming up very soon. And of course, you're going to have a lot of kids there. Talk about the preparations for that.
Absolutely. October 21st through 23rd in Indianapolis, Indiana. We are so excited to gather just over 70,000 individuals into Lucas Oil and Convention Center in Indianapolis, Indiana. And to those FFA members that are listening in, and advisors or community members or alumni, thank you for your support in getting those chapters to be able to come and experience the incredible time they will have at National FFA Convention.
All right, and then I got to ask you about your history in FFA. What kind of things did you do when you were in the organization?
Yeah, so I didn't fall too far from the tree. My dad was my ag teacher. Mom was my 4-H club leader, so we got it both ways. But in FFA, really got heavily involved in prepared public speaking, extemp. Did a little bit of dairy judging and poultry judging. Led me down the path that I really didn't want to be in the poultry business, which is a great experience to know what you don't want to be in. But as I continued on through that, was a state officer in Indiana, and then had the chance to teach and then come back to this role about 5 years ago.
All right. Well, we thank you so much for taking the time to share with us everything you guys have got going on. Appreciate you taking the time out of a very busy day.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Joslyn Plant Cattle Producers, we have a delivery solution for you. Call Legacy Beef Co-op, where members market cattle through a processor-negotiated real-time formula grid. This grid includes a base price premium for members and offers market protection guardrails. Join now for a one-time co-op membership fee of $62.50 per unit. For more information, call Legacy Beef Co-op at 531-375-6559 or email James Timmerman at james@legacybeefcoop.com. Well, that is going to put the wraps on another edition of the Iowa Ag Matters program. And, of course, all our coverage from the state fair up on our YouTube channel. And, of course, we are still going through that for our stories at iowaagnet.com. We'll be checking out that YouTube channel. We are still uploading interviews that we've conducted here throughout the time at the Iowa State Fair. And, of course, thanks to everybody who stopped by to say hello. And, of course, thanks to Riley and thanks to Mark. And, of course, thanks to you for listening. This is Dustin Huffman on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. You've been listening to Iowa Ag Matters.